We're absolutely delighted to welcome Laura Cosendey. I hope I've pronounced that correctly, Laura Cosendey.
Yes.
Laura is an assistant curator at the Museo de Arte de Sao Paulo, MASP, and for the past year has been working alongside Fernando Oliva and Adriano Pedrosa on the exhibition Paul Gauguin, The Other and I. She has a master's degree in history, criticism and theory of art from the State University of Rio de Janeiro, dedicated to curatorial studies. And she's been working on curatorial projects in different institutions in Brazil, including the 33rd Sao Paulo Biennale in 2018, in which she was a curatorial assistant. At MASP in 2021, she worked as curatorial assistant for a monographic show on the Brazilian artist Ione Saldanha. And currently she's working alongside Adriano Pedrosa on a Francis Bacon exhibition to be held at MASP in 2024. Wow, very exciting. For which they have also organized a special seminar in May 2023. So we'll be there. I hope other people will be too. The Francis Bacon project is part of a year-long curatorial program dedicated to queer histories in 2024. So to me, this is really exciting because I think that MASP, I don't know very much about MASP, but from what I can see about some of the exhibitions you've been doing over the past few years, they are very, very interesting. So maybe before we start talking about Gauguin, first of all, let me just tell everybody about the Athena Art Foundation. So my name is Nicola Jennings. I'm the director of the Athena Art Foundation. We are quite a young organization. We were set up 2 years ago. And what we do is to promote pre-20th century art, painting, sculpture, decorative arts, etc., from all over the world. And so we're interested in African art, in Asian art, in all kinds of art. But as it happens, the talk today is about an artist working in the European tradition, Paul Gauguin. So I hope you will, we have these digital events about once a month, so I do hope you will join us for some of the future ones. And I hope that this is not going to be the last talk that we do with MASP, because I think that they're such an interesting institution. And it's so exciting for us to be talking to somebody from the global south and from Brazil in particular. So Laura, before we start talking about the exhibition, tell me just a little bit about the projects that you've been doing over the last few years. I mean, next year is Queer Histories. What is this year's and what was last year? What have the last few years been, the programs?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Nicola, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here talking with you and presenting our curatorial project. Well, yes, so since 2017, MASP has been organizing its program around the idea of histories like with lowercase h and as an effort to bring different narratives and more plural and different voices to always dedicated to a central theme. So we started it with the childhood histories, and then Afro-Atlantic histories, no, sexuality histories. And then in 2018, there was the Afro-Atlantic histories, which now is traveling in the US, and women's histories and feminist histories. We have a biennial dedicated to the Brazilian histories from 2021 and 22. And now we are in the indigenous histories, which is also a very exciting year for us, since we are only having indigenous artists, not only from Brazil, but also from other parts of the world, especially in a group show that will be held in the second semester. And next year we will have the queer history. So yes, we are on this ongoing program, very
exciting. And clearly you are catching the world's attention, because your chief curator has just been named the curator of the next Venice Biennale, which is a huge honor, isn't it? So
no,
wonderful.
this is great. We are very happy for him and very much looking forward for what he will be doing there.
And I'm sure that people will be thinking back and looking back at what MASP is doing as well. So it'll put you in the spotlight, which is brilliant. So can you tell me a little bit about the Gauguin exhibition, Laura?
Yes, well, the show Gauguin, The Other and I, is open to the public now at MASP until August the 6th. And well, we are presenting 40 works by Gauguin, paintings and woodcuts, and of which 2 are from MASP collections. We are focusing on his works from Tahiti and his self-portraits. The show, we intend to explore this relation of the artist with the idea of otherness. Well, everything that it's different for European white man painter, and how this notion has reflected not only his point of view, but also the image he created in his work about Tahiti, but also other distant worlds, and how this has influenced as well in his own in this creation of his own self-representations. So we are bringing to the exhibition works from both his trips to Tahiti, and as well as a group of self-portraits. And in a way, well, this idea of The Other and I departs from our own collection. We have 2 paintings, a self-portrait. I think it's the next slide.
This one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A self-portrait, a very important self-portrait he made during his 2nd stay in Tahiti. In the same year he was back, which is a very sumptuous and very dramatic portrait. And we have another, also The Poor Fisherman, which is from the same year. It's yes, sure. This one in the center.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if you have another. Do you have a close-up of it somewhere here? No, I don't think you do. Yeah, it's okay.
You can take this, in the catalog cover.
It's on the cover of the catalog. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And which is a very emblematic painting from the Tahitian period. It's a fisherman looking to the heart, looking to the landscape and very almost metaphysical way, and it has many of the very important characteristics of Gauguin works from this period. So it has influences from Japanese woodcuts and Egyptian art, and well, many different worlds. So it has been a very special opportunity to see both paintings from our collection in a more complex context, especially taking that MASP holds the most important European art collection in the Southern Hemisphere.
Is that so?
Even though, and even though we have a much more varied and plural collection of modern contemporary artists, and being also with new acquisitions and new works from different part of the world. So even though many people come to MASP to see this more traditional, this more canonical art collection, so I think it's also our role to present to this public different narratives from this more canonical art history. So yes, and it's also important to notice that this is the first monographic show dedicated to Gauguin in Latin America, and one of the few in the Global South. So it's also very interesting to notice that the major institutions in Europe and in the US hardly really loan their most amazing paintings. So yes, it's a very good opportunity to present some different readings on these works.
No, well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I think it's very much, I mean, we're very excited to have this conversation with you, because it's very much what we would like to see more of is different perspectives on, I mean, obviously we want to look at all different art traditions, so different perspectives on different art traditions, but this is an interesting one for us, you know, because we are in Europe and we don't often hear people from other countries talking about our European art traditions. So not wanting to be Eurocentric, but actually, since you're talking about us, we're interested to hear what you have to say, you know, and what relevance it has in the Global South, in a country like Brazil. I mean, we'll come back to this question afterwards, but, you know, I think those are the kinds of questions which could really help us to interest new people that aren't looking at these paintings in the global north, because lots of people aren't looking at them, lots of people here aren't interested, and so, you know, we have to find new discourses, new things to say about them. And I think maybe we have a lot to learn from the approaches that you're taking at MASP. So it's really exciting, as I say, to be talking to you. But one thing I wanted to ask you, so coming back to the image, well, first of all, so this painting here, you mentioned that there's influences, for example, of Japanese art, Japanese woodcuts and things. I mean, there was a lot of, when Gauguin painted this, there were other artists in Paris, weren't there, also, that were, if you like, appropriating art from other artistic traditions and bringing it into, I mean, there was Whistler, there was Degas, you know, different people. It wasn't just Gauguin, was it? And then, of course, Picasso did it in a huge way later. So it's interesting that you say that's the case here. But was Gauguin one of the first to get interested in the art of other cultures?
Yes, I think we can say that he was very much hunger, I would say, to bring different references and different imagery. Even though many French painters in the 19th century were looking to even the idea of Orientalism. Well, they were looking abroad and were painting it, but also a very idealized and European-based vision of Asia. And well, Gauguin, I think one interesting to think of his work is that most of Gauguin's work is not really related to France and the Parisian context. He has traveled a lot. He went to different parts of France. He went to Martinique. And so before going to Tahiti, he was very much attracted to these different realities and these different visual languages. I think it's not just a question, an issue of culture, but also of imagery. And Gauguin has, well, he had almost like this, when he went to Tahiti, he also had many different postcards and different, almost like his own museum. And so when we look to Gauguin's work from Tahiti, in fact, we don't see only Tahiti. We also see many different references.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It's almost like to create this idea of exotic and distant place. He would also bring together different visuality that could bring this effect of another, I would say.
Yes, and he also, I mean, looking at the self-portrait that you have of him, I mean, that's very interesting, because there in the back there's a very strange dark face, isn't there? Now, is that a person, or is that a sculpture? I'm trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, this is well, it's more like a head, but not a spirit, an entity, a deity, and a Tahitian deity. It's possibly the moon goddess, Hina. And we can also see another figure, a profile figure in his on this side, in his left side. Which I think it's very interesting, because it's almost coming from him, almost like his Tahitian double. And this painting is very special for us if we look to Gauguin's trajectory. I think it's one of the last self-portraits, even though Gauguin lived until 1903. This is, I think, the most how would I say that, more bold self-portrait of this late period, but also is related to different moments of his own career. So Gauguin has made many portraits, many self-portraits, also kind of playing different roles. And here he presents himself in this figure of Christ, as the title refers. It's near Golgotha, so the Calvary, and he's like incarnating Christ in the moment, in the most dramatic moment of the biblical narrative. So and he made this painting when he arrived in Tahiti for his second and final staying. So it's very emotional as well, of this moment he was living.
I wonder, it makes me think of Dürer's self-portrait. Do you know the one I mean? Because Dürer, did the same thing. He depicted himself as Christ, and I wonder if Gauguin knew that work. Do we know?
He certainly did.
Yeah.
Because Gauguin made lots of reference to old masters and different artists, and even from the same generation of him. So he has another self-portrait that we are also presenting in the exhibition. It's called Bonjour, Monsieur Gauguin, which is a reference to Gustave Courbet, Bonjour, Monsieur Courbet.
Not that one? No.
Together. No, it's together with the other self-portraits.
Right.
And so, yeah, he was very the left one.
Right.
So he's very conscious of all this tradition. I think even the self-portraiture as an artistic tradition is a motive to create this identity and to claim this identity of himself as an artist. So yes, I think he was very much familiar with, he was certainly using this image and this of Christ, also installed by Dürer and Van Eyck.
Of course, yeah. How interesting. And I was going to ask you something else about yes. So the other thing that interests me is that I've read that. Well, first of all, I believe that he had Peruvian ancestry. Is that right?
Yes, from the family of his mother.
From the family of his mother, and he had spent part of his childhood in Peru.
Yeah, he lived in Lima for a while. I think until his 7. And then he was back to Paris. But but this was very it's very interesting how he used this as part of his own identity. So he would tell people about his Inca blood, which is very problematic, and his Inca profile, like his nose, and he would reinforce it in his self-portraits. So yeah, I think and in a way, this is why also he went to Martinica before going to Tahiti, because of his family. And so yes, I think this is something when we look to Gauguin in terms of his identity and his self-representation, he brings together a very complex relation. He's not very, he doesn't really feel that he belonged to the Parisian art circle, even though when he finally goes to Tahiti, he took advantage of all the privileges of being a Frenchman in a French colony. So yeah, he always kind of is dealing with this idea, this situation of insider, outsider, anywhere he goes. So
yes, absolutely. And at some point he actually describes himself, doesn't he? Is it when he's in Brittany, he describes himself as a savage? You know, he's clearly really playing on this, trying to create an image of himself as something outside of sort of civilized European culture at the end of the 19th century. It's strange, but so he goes to Polynesia twice, doesn't he? And he creates some of these. Well, they're wonderful paintings. They've become, you know, obviously very problematic in recent years, and I think so much has been said about that I don't think we need to go over all of that again. You know, about his relationship to these young women, and you know, I think people seem to have. I think there's a slightly more nuanced take on the whole thing that's come in the last few years. I've been reading some of the more recent catalogues, but I think it's a hugely complex issue. But when what I'm interested in is this idea of the other, and really, you know, the idea of primitivism and the exotic and the other. And, you know, so how did you handle that in the exhibition? I mean, what conclusions did you come to about that?
It's interesting it's important to have in mind that when Gauguin went to Tahiti, he was not the first to create an image of Tahiti. In fact, he was bringing with him I think especially in his first sojourn in Tahiti, he was bringing an imagery of Tahiti, and an imaginary also, that was being shaped like for more than a century, since the first reports of European travelers.
Captain Cook, right?
Cook,
yes.
Yeah.
And we have this wonderful painting in London now of Mai, that the National Portrait Gallery has just acquired, who was a Polynesian. Have you seen the reports about that? Yes, that it's a painting.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
So when Gauguin finally comes to Tahiti and starts to make his initial paintings, he's still very connected with this, not only writings, but also photographs and even touristic advertising in a way. Gauguin started to plan this travel to a different place after he went to the Universal Exhibition in Paris in 1889. There he got in contact with many different pavilions, so he was like very seduced, and he was in fact planning to go to Madagascar, and he was very fascinated with Java, and he finally got to go to Tahiti. And so in a way, he had contact with different images from Tahiti beforehand. And I think many of his paintings from this first year, from this initial years in Tahiti, from 1891 to 93, are very much influenced by this idea, this utopia of paradise, of idyllic life, more connected to nature, and yes. So I think, and in a way, it was also he was hoping, I would say, was projection, that he would find this this way of life and this culture, this originary culture. And in fact, he was quite disappointed in many ways when he finally arrived there. And even though he didn't really represented it directly, we see many of these mythical narratives, but we also see this desire. I think it was more like the Tahiti he was desiring to meet when he. So yeah, so in a way he was still very involved, and he also reproduced through this Tahiti through this lens of an exotic place, and this gets still more problematic when we look to the way he represented the Tahitian people, especially women, especially the Polynesian women, because and this was not only in Gauguin, but in this European culture, there was Tahiti was very much associated with the female body, and this idea of a vagine, of a Venus, a Tahitian Venus, and from the beginnings, Tahiti was called was named New Cithra, like the land of Venus.
Right.
So yeah, and this is also very present in Gauguin's work.
So the other is what he is how he represents. He goes there thinking he's going to discover this paradise and be a part of it, but actually what he's doing is just representing it through European eyes. And does he ever get beyond that, or is he always the European looking at the other, as it were?
He does, especially when he was researching and exploring different ways to bring this visuality. So we were talking about the different influences. He brings a very much a variety of visuality. So he was also interested in Javanese temples, and we see, and even in the Poor Fisherman of MASP, the central figure is based on Egyptian not relief, relevo, frieze.
Yes. Relief. Sorry, relief. Yes. Yeah.
So he, in a way, he was not representing this Tahiti through the traditional and more conventional European aesthetics. He was like trying to find a different way to bring this different worlds and to put it all together.
Interesting.
There is, and when we look to his later work, it's not about Tahiti anymore.
It's about himself.
Is still, it's about it's a utopia. It's about this. There's still many aspects of this imaginary of Eden, of a garden, and from this origins of the world. So Tahiti was not only a distant place, it was also like a means for Gauguin and for his contemporaries was almost like a means to go to a different time, to a distant moment in time. So so he was trying to bring this to his painting.
Wow. And what does this, how have people in Brazil responded to this? What kind of, what does the concept of otherness mean in a country like Brazil, where you have, as I gather, because I haven't been to Brazil, sadly, but that you have so many different ethnic communities, you have different communities living almost in different centuries as well, in some of the ways that people live in the Amazon, for example, in some of the indigenous communities that don't want to be contacted, for example. I mean, it must be a very interesting concept in Brazil.
To present a Gauguin show in year dedicated to the indigenous histories is in a way an inversion of this, because Gauguin is the other in the context of a Brazilian museum.
Yes.
He is the other for us Brazilian art historians. And he is the other for the major public, I think. And especially if we see it, the show in dialogue with the other with the other shows like Xeranaui Hakihiwi, which is a Yanomami artist from Venezuela, and our pre-Columbian art collection. So he's not really in his comfort zone, I would say. And in a way, this idea of the tropics and the exotics and the creation of exoticized and eroticized image of the people of the it also recalls many things we see here regarding Brazil and our culture and our context. So we could also see this own idea of tropics and landscapes very much associated. So Brazil very much associated with this paradise as well. And even the women. So we have in modernist art the presence, a strong presence of this figure of mulata. So Black women, very eroticized as well. So I think we can trace some different parallels with our own art as well. So yes, this has been very interesting for us to present.
The last thing I want to ask you about is a little bit, which I think follows on from this. It's a little bit about the museum's history, because it has a very particular history, doesn't it? In the architect who put it together and her vision of how she wanted to see the art presented, the collection presented. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the two paintings of Gauguin that belongs to our collection were acquired in this first initial years. So MASP was created in 1947. Was like a huge effort of businessman, Assis Chateaubriand, together with this couple of Italians, Pietro Maria Bardi, who was a marchand, and Lina Bobardi, the architect and designer that was a very crucial person to this idea, to create this idea of a modern museum in Brazil. So even though we have a historical art collection, I think the museum is modern in the way it proposes itself as an institution. And Lina has explored many different ways of exhibiting the artworks from still in the initial building. She was very much influenced by the Italian architects as Franco Albini. So when our present building at Avenida Paulista was created. She and for the building, she also created this exhibition display that it's very radical if we look to exhibitions display in 20th century in general. So she created this glass easels, we call, in which the paintings hang in space in a very well spread and connected. Well, it's not it's also a break with the idea of linear art history.
They're not chronological.
Not chronological.
No.
In fact, now we are in a counter chronological.
Right.
But also we also have some contemporary dialogues like inserted in different periods, and it's a very special experience because you can walk through the easels and create different paths and different narratives, and while you are creating your own route, you also have this different perspective, so you can create your own dialogues through different moments of art.
So does it still, is there a part of the museum that still looks like this?
Yes.
Yes.
The second floor, we have the picture gallery in transformation. Yes, so it was off during from the late 90s, and it was under Adriano Pedrosa artistic direction that they started a great project to reinstall the glass easels. So yes, I think in the next picture in this PD.
Oh yes, I see.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Cool.
And here is Gauguin.
Yeah.
But
so there seem to be sort of groupings, but as you say, you know, there you have a painting which is from a very different tradition, next to what I think is a Van Gogh there on the right. Those two paintings there.
Yeah, here we have a Van Gogh beside Almeida. Almeida Jr., which is a Brazilian painter from 19th century. Right. So we have here also the Gauguin next to the Fernand Léger, which is next and next to Di Cavalcanti, which is really small in the side. So yes, we can not only bring together, but put in dialogue, and in a way, this idea of modules. Also allow us to keep the collection in movement.
So you do that. So do you just have fun as curators thinking, oh, I think I'd like to put these two paintings together and see what people think?
So we can experiment a lot, and we have many things are moving like every Monday when the museum is closed.
Wow.
So so it's always a different it's always in process as well.
I wonder if people here would like that, because people get very attached, you know, when they go to the National Gallery, they'd like to know where their favorite painting is. You know, they have their little roots. Maybe Brazilians are a little bit more open-minded than we are. Yeah, great. Well, listen, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask of Laura? I think it's been such an interesting conversation. I hope the first of many. If not, I think, maybe Han has a question?
I do have a question, if possible.
Ah, great. Yes, please.
Probably one you get all the time, but which is your favorite painting from the exhibition, and also which is your least favorite? I'm adding a negative spin on that, but I'm curious to know why.
Yeah.
This is always a tough question. I think it's not just a matter of the favorite one, but I think one of the most impressive one is one from the Getty Foundation. I think we don't have a slide from this like solo, but it's decapitated head in almost like nature,
Yeah.
still life set. It's very different from everything we see from Gauguin in this moment, and it's very different from this idea of this the sensuality and this paradise and this idea of Tahiti we are used to. But we have some paintings that are also very very special for us to discuss this idea of the other and I. So the painting from the Musée d'Orsay, Two Tahitians on a Beach, is which presents two different ideas. So one,
We have that one.
what I think you can put in the exhibition views.
The exhibition views at the beginning.
Yeah. And so this one in the left is the
head. Yeah. Yeah.
But well, I also think it's very, when we look to the self-portraits, there's this one with a yellow background. I think we have this on a
slide as well. Yeah.
Which I think it's a very very exemplary, I don't know, but it's very emblematic of how Gauguin created this idea, this image for himself. He made this portrait when he was in Paris for between the two periods in Tahiti, and the way he includes Te Hamanas, his 14-year-old lover, in the backside, in it as a reference to one of his own paintings.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strong way to present. So I think I have, it's not just a favorite, but I think there are works that encapsulate very well what we are looking here as the idea of other. So the other as a woman, the other as the Tahitian, the other as of himself. He had other in himself when he was like playing different roles and creating this idea of an outsider artist. So
great. Well, Laura, thank you so much. That was a really, really interesting conversation, and we're going to put it up on our YouTube page so a lot more people can enjoy it. And yeah, I hope it'll be the first of many conversations with you and MASP. And maybe one day I'll get to come and visit.